Thank you, everyone. Oops, great. All right, I would like to call this meeting of the San Mateo County Parks Commission order. Begin with a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up is roll call.
Yes. Here.
And Chair Rodriguez.
Here.
All present.
We'll move on to public comment.
Great. For public comment, for spoken public comment, this will be accepted during the meeting in person or remotely through Zoom. Public comment in person will be taken first, followed by speakers on Zoom. And you'll be called on to speak by name when it is your turn. If you wish to speak to the commission, please fill out a speaker slip located near the conference room door. If you have anything that you wish to have distributed to the commission and included in the official record, please hand it to myself and I will distribute it to the commission members and staff. For speakers on Zoom, please use the raise hand function to indicate you would like to speak for an item. When the chair calls on public comment, click on raise hand. Speakers will be notified shortly before they're called on to speak. They'll be provided the ability to unmute your microphone and begin speaking. And public comment is limited to 2 minutes. And currently I have no speaker slips for public comment and I'm seeing no hands raised. Oh.
Okay. We'll move forward with the action to set the agenda. Do you have any comments?
I would make a motion that we set the April 3rd meeting to agenda. Right, I'm having a second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Move on to item 5, reports and presentations, and we'll go with the department update from Director Galvin.
Yeah, so just a few exciting updates, I'll say. First, we are working through the process for the flood park playground. We should be, we've been engaging with contractors through our design build process, and we'll be knowing next week who the final contractor will be. They'll be responsible for finalizing designs, as well as procuring and installing the equipment. So that will go to the Board of Supervisors on April 22nd for final approval. One thing to flag is we've been working now for some time on a very strict project budget for this element of flood park of $5.5 million, which includes hard and soft costs for the playground, as well as renovations of the restrooms. Some elements of the playground are being imported, and therefore we are anticipating to see some type of budget impact as a result of the tariff announcement this week. We don't know how large, we don't know if if orders could be placed in a way that could expedite and somehow get around that. We don't know enough right now. We're still, and unfortunately, we still don't actually know what we don't know. But our contractors are working, our consultants are working, daily to figure out what this means for the project. In fact, Scott and I were talking just before this about different strategies that we can rely on if the project comes in over budget, which if it does get hit with the tariffs, we fully anticipate it will. And so we'll be having some internal conversations about how we plan on closing that funding gap. And it would likely be a combination of having to reallocate funds from another project, as well as really sharpen the pencil and look at value engineering certain elements down. I think, we want to make sure that any type of value engineering that does go on, though, doesn't change the integrity of the playground design. It doesn't change the experience that we're trying to provide. But we will certainly know more next week when those final bids come in, which should come with pricing for that playground. So that's one aspect. The second one that I do want to bring to the group's attention is regarding Tunitas Creek Beach. And so we are continuing to work there. Really the critical path at Tunitas Creek Beach is PG&E and undergrounding their utilities, and they're still giving us a pretty far off date for when they think they can get on site to resolve this. The Parks Department, the Department of Public Works have been using all the connections that they have to try and get PG&E to understand the severity of the situation, and they're just not really budging. I did brief the county executive on this last week, and so he's going to be making some calls for us to see if he can help out with this, and if necessary, we'll elevate it even further to the Board of Supervisors. The date they're giving us right now is in June, which is still after PG&E takes care of their work. There's still 12 weeks of work that need to be done after that. So they're in this really important critical path that's delaying other elements. So until we're able to get a better date for PG&E, it's hard for us to know. And we're in a bit of a holding pattern there. Also at Tunitas, we have had some new earth movement form, and it's outside of the project area. But it's still on the property. And so we are actively assessing that with Public Works to understand what that means, as well as to understand what a series, like what a range of options could be to address this issue, right? So what we did on the main portion of the property is literally excavated the slide out and then put it back in and keyed it in, as well as adding some drainage features. Is that the extent that would need to be done here? Can we shift amenities near it? Those are all things we're looking at. I think one thing to point out is we intentionally did not put any built features on bluff edges near known slides for this exact reason, right? I mean, we have, Scott and I, again, we're talking about this, we've known since we took this property, since the county got involved in this project before we owned it, that this property had numerous landslides. And so this was always a possibility. I don't think any of us were anticipating it was going to be right now, but we adapt accordingly. And so we are working with our engineers to figure out what next steps can be, as well as if something could be done while the park is open, or do we have to hold off until a fix is done before the park can open? Those are all things that we're really waiting for some more information from our engineers on, and hopefully we'll have a better sense of what next steps will be at the next meeting. Do you have a question?
I would say, is this at the south end?
North end. The north end.
Yeah, for some reason, Tunitas turns me around more than any other part of the county. It's on the north end. It's on the north end, yeah, by the creek.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're,
well, then that's okay. I mean, that's not okay. That's
It's-
less concerning to me.
It's not coming down onto the beach.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but, yeah, it's on the north side. And then something that's really exciting is, I know our next meeting, we want to be talking budget, and so we may dedicate time, we could dedicate the whole meeting to that, but also by the next meeting, we will have an update available for the commission on Coyote Point. And so I do have a draft of that was sent to me late last week, and so I need to just go through that and we'll get some comments back to our consultant and make sure that's finalized. But we're excited to be able to finally roll that out and start making some serious implementations at Coyote Point. It's well, it's much needed at Coyote Point. It is our second most visited unit in the entire system, behind Crystal Springs Trail. And with that $1 million in federal funding from Representative Representative Rowland, we want to be able to figure out what that pathway looks like forward. The most recent information we're getting from HUD, Housing and Urban Development, is that that funding is still there. And so we want to move as quickly as possible to preserve that funding. And then, and do you want to give an update on San Bruno Mountain?
Yeah, so we're continuing to work on the San Bruno Mountain Days Improvement Project. So this will update the picnic sites, kind of reorient them so that there are a few larger group arrangements. And we are replacing the restroom building and adding a open air interpretive pavilion to the side of that building. So we are getting pretty close to construction with that. The construction start is planned for May. We're waiting on final permitting, but otherwise everything is lining up for that construction time. And it should be all completed by the middle of August. And the interpretive pavilion as well, we're also working with some members of, San Bruno Mountain Watch and other volunteers that work at the mountain to brainstorm ideas for the interpretive content with Catherine's team. So we'll be having some new interpretive panels added in to this pavilion area as well.
And then the last thing, I think we spent a lot of time talking about these really big projects, but I think there are two projects right now that are going on that we're handling in-house that I think highlight really the range of tasks and responsibilities we take on, but also how important it is that we have such well-trained staff and Scott's really responsible for leading the field staff. And right now we have this remarkable project up at Universal Park. We're replacing the double slides there, which are these epic slides that we do not ever recommend adults go down. They're only for kids. There's signs there. Please follow the signs. But we're doing so much work to install a retaining wall there to work with contractors to get the slides replaced, but also take on a lot of that responsibility ourselves while simultaneously replacing the roof for one of the restrooms at Flood Park and upgrading some of the electrical. So, we spend a lot of time talking about these big, massive projects, but the truth is what makes the park system run on a day-to-day basis, it's really the field staff. It's the ones out there who are making sure that our trails are well maintained, that our playgrounds are meeting safety requirements, and that features are being replaced when necessary, that our restrooms are properly functioning, culverts are being replaced, hazard trees are being removed. I mean, the list goes on, and Scott does a remarkable job really leading that end of the house. And so I wanted just to call that out because I certainly don't think I spend enough time highlighting those types of activities. And as we come out of the rainy season, the amount of work that field staff is going to be doing to both mow and brush within our system, whether it's our meadows or our trails, it takes months to do, and it's a huge undertaking. And again, I don't think anyone thinks about that when they necessarily go out and enjoy the trails. But really there is a hardworking team behind making that happen. So I wanted to take a minute to call that out. And with that, we're all happy to answer. Scott, anything else?
Yeah, we've been busy.
Understatement, yeah.
We've been busy.
But with that, yeah, we're all happy to answer questions.
How big is the field staff?
65 was the last check I saw. That's what's filled right now. And we have
And usually
a couple of
we pick up
vacancies.
25 to 30 seasonal, if not more, if we're able to. So they're pretty robust coming into the spring and the summertime.
And one thing I think a lot of people don't know is in addition to our rangers, we then also have we have an electrician, we have an equipment operator, we have a mechanic operator, a carpenter.
Yeah, we run the garbage, we collect our own garbage, have our own garbage. Yeah, it's just a never ending cycle. We're always going. Yeah.
So, yeah.
And you're anticipating that you will have enough capacity for seasonal ones this summer?
You mean financial capacity?
Yeah. Maybe that's a discussion for next month, but.
What I would, yeah, we'll definitely dive into that next month, but I think to answer your question, things are truly day to day right now. You know, for example, in a couple of weeks, we'll have a meeting with the county executive's office to talk about Measure K, and if we need to make Measure K reductions, where would that come from? We are, going through exercises to determine if we had to reduce our budget by 5% and by 10%, how would we accomplish that? Those are just exercises, but what that really is a framework for when things go south. How are we gonna respond for that? And so it's just trying to get out ahead of that. So do I think we'll have capacity for it? Yes. Right now? I think if we look, you know, the market just tanked as a result of the tariff announcement.
You'll have to tell a $50,000 loss today, so I'm just.
Yeah, so I mean.
Being very transparent.
Yeah, it's, you know, it was a pretty rough day at the market. It's unclear what some of the rationale is behind some of the federal policy making, and so because we receive so much money at the county level for our safety net services, if we see a reduction there, we can quickly see a swing in our budget. One that we didn't have a chance to forecast and one that we weren't really ready for. So as of today, I would say yes. My answer to that question next month might be a very different answer, though.
That comment was because I would anticipate that there may be more traffic in the parks this summer.
Yeah.
As other areas are closed and saying that the maintenance takes so much time and trying to get it ahead, and you're doing an excellent job trying to get ahead of it.
Mhm. Yeah, and we are going to be sitting down internally as an executive team, and we'll be sitting down internally with our lead rangers to talk about what those reductions look like. And we are very fortunate that we still have a number of people, Scott included, who were here during the last downturn, who will be able to rely on for, you know, what did we do at that time? Since then, the system has evolved significantly. And, you know, I mean, I think one of the best examples is we shut down Flood Park. Obviously, we can't shut down Flood Park again. And so we'll have to look at what avenues are available to reduce some of those expenses. I would also say, you know, I do think this board is different. I think this county executive is different. I'm, you know, not saying one's better or anything like that, but I think there's a really strong appreciation and understanding of the service parks provide. And I think you're right, with reductions at the federal level, who knows what's gonna happen at the state level, we'll see greater demand. But also, as fewer people are going away for activities, you're gonna see more people staying locally for activities. That will also put a demand on the system. And so, yeah, I mean, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna have to be a very strategic couple of years for us.
A couple, and thanks for the updates, guys, and, you know, just, you know, tip of the hat, Scott and your crew for doing everything out there. This is fantastic. It's a big crew, and a ton of work. I appreciate Nicholas bringing it up because I feel like it needs to be acknowledged every meeting, perhaps, you know, so important. In terms of questions that I had, one just occurred to me, which is just, you know, this idea of the health of the economy and the usage of parks and the relationship there, and just from past experiences, not necessarily saying we're hit, it could be. And so what was it like, you know, in 2008, 2009, did we see a lot more park usage during that time, or was it less, or how did it track?
I'll have to defer to Scott on that.
I think it not as much as now.
Okay.
Not as much as now. I think the recession at that time hit all the way across the board.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, they were staying home. There was a fairly good rise in people showing up in the parks, but after what we've seen with COVID, it hasn't stopped. And the nice weather for us right now is every weekend is inundated and a lot of the bigger parks in the middle of the week are getting a lot of reservations because everything's booked up through the weekends already, so people are already adjusting. So, yeah, it's hard to keep up with it, so.
And what we're going to tell you kind of as a point of reference is in fiscal year 10-11, which was kind of at the end of that, we were at about 1.7 visitors. In 2024, we were at 2.6. And, you know, I'm fully anticipating we're probably gonna see a 20% increase in visitors between Chunitas and Flood Park. So we're smashing the numbers from the last downturn, but also since then, it's got, we don't miss anything. We've taken on Moss Beach Park, Double Slide, Friendship Park, Quarry Park, Chunitas, Calparissima, Pillar Point Bluff. We renovated Flood. We renovated Memorial. We're seeing new highs for Memorial reservations. So, you know, we've expanded the allowed uses and the facilities in the park. So, you know, I think so we're already seeing just peak numbers right now, before any type of impact from the downturn. So it's gonna be certainly interesting.
Yeah, it's helpful. I'm glad we're thinking of it, and I'm glad you guys are planning ahead. That's good. I had another question about back to the Chunitas Creek and PG&E, which might not be your favorite one to talk about. But can you walk me through what again happened with PG&E on that one, just a little bit more? And I'm just kind of curious how they got so far out when they're.
Yeah, so we had some issues around the design element of what they were supposed to install. The error was completely on their end. We even tried pointing it out to them that they were wrong, and they were adamant that they were right until their crew got on site and realized that no, they were wrong. And so what has to happen at this point is the utilities need to be pulled through the underground trench and activated, and just given the amount of work they have throughout the state, you get put on the queue where you get put on the queue. And I can tell you, you know, we have problems with PG. They're delayed at Flood Park. It's just less of a critical path. Medical center, you know, how did it get away from us? We never had, candidly, you never have control of anything that involves PG&E. So it didn't get away from us as much as we just never had. Right. Never had.
I get it. And I appreciate you guys have done everything you can, and you're escalating every way you can. But it's such a bummer that it's such a critical path item for this beautiful park that's being withheld because they made a mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything else that can be done to kind of refocus them, because you know, if you think about the loss to the community
Right.
based on that, it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Yeah.
And it also threatens the project because, you know, right now we're in a position where there's a lot of unknowns with all the funding and getting anything wrapped up. And we have windows of opportunity, and this may be pushing us out of windows of opportunity. And so how do they account for that?
How do they account for it? They don't. And candidly, like they take the stance that it's, you know, it's not their problem. And that's why we elevated it to the county executive, right? It's like that they're not being responsive to what I'm telling them. They're not being responsive to what Public Works is telling them. So we'll see if they can be responsive to what the county executive tells them. And again, if that doesn't work, then we'll elevate it to Ray. And if necessary, we'll go even higher.
But we've been waiting for them for a year. But they're gonna make it. So from what we heard today, they're gonna make it this month.
Yeah. Yeah,
Here.
we've been coordinating with them, and thank God we started with them when we did, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, you know, so, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the stories, you know, they told us they were gonna be out at Flood 2 weeks ago, and then they called us and said, no, they're not. And then they called us Saturday morning and said, we're coming out today. And then they never showed up. And then we talked to the project manager, and they're like, no one was supposed to be out there this weekend, right? And so
you know, would it took us a month to get them to turn the power back on at Coyote Point, even though all the work was done, they just, what was it? 2 months. So it's just, I mean, you know, the stories, and I will tell you, I talk with my counterparts at other agencies, and everyone has the same.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, all of us have to, you know, but hopefully I'll have a better update for you all at the next meeting. And hopefully we'll be able to get some movement going with the county executive.
Would it be helpful to have PG&E at one of these meetings to provide their
You
update?
You can try, they're not very responsive, and they typically, will tell you, great point, we'll look into it and then. So, but we certainly try.
Yeah, I think that's it for my questions.
Any other questions?
Just, I mean, thanks for the updates, but it seems like you gotta, you know, not to go elementary here, but it seems like you got a nice looking ice cream cone and you give it to a kid. And now that ice cream cone goes from being completely solid to tailor that in when you're saying the unknown of the unknown and daily economics or what's gonna happen with county's budget. That beautiful looking ice cream cone, strawberry ice cream cone, whatever flavor you like, you give it to one of your kids. And all of a sudden that ice cream cone is now just evaporates to like liquid. And that's what it seems like. That's what it's translating to. I mean, I'm kind of being half funny, half serious.
Yeah, I mean, but we'll get another shot at the ice cream, right? The ice cream cone will come back on this.
It's not good. Ice cream is not going anywhere, but I'm just saying that the kid was feasting on having that nice ice cream. Now it's just melted.
Yeah, no, it's a really, in all seriousness, like it's not just a schedule thing, it also causes delays with the contractor, so it is a very frustrating situation. And again, you know, I mean, I think it's dealing with PG&E on cap projects is just one element, right? I mean, we deal with PG&E on fire issues that people with that, I mean, you remember they brought the hell saw into Hutter Park and we told them not to, then they did. Like, it's just that. They're just.
Why are they spending so much? You see them on TV a lot on a lot of issues. Why are they spending so much money to try to clean up their PR? And here they are just trying to, not sabotage, but it just seems a little bit like you just kind of, you know, put a battery and like like a hot stick and just, and like all of a sudden, you know, there's no, you know, transparency anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, I really do wish I had a better answer for you all. And unfortunately, you know, PG&E's this giant bureaucracy that is very challenging to navigate, yet because of the services they provide, they're integral in everything.
They're very siloed. And nobody's in charge of any one thing and they just kick it to the next person. Very frustrating.
So something goes wrong, they just turn the other cheek. I mean, I'm not trying to undermine or speak below the belt or discourse anyone negatively, but it just seems like such a massive agency like that, a private sector that's known globally is not willing to just collaborate with all the agencies impacted through serious projects that need to be built or started on.
And just to follow up on that, and you said the contractors also being in negative, there's no recourse that we have. Are we incurring extra costs because the contractors cannot wrap up this project on time because of this critical path issue? And is there any recourse to say, okay, you can't find them, right? Because
Yeah, we can't, I mean.
we can't find
whether
PG&E for
we
being
can
late,
submit
like
claims-
performance late,
We can
right?
submit claims against PG&E, whether they accept them or anything is a different, it's a different conversation. We are, you know, there's some final touches that the contractor's working on the core part of the property, largely the handrail, guardrail situation, right? They're still getting those installed. But once they're done with that, then, you know, yeah, we could be looking at delays. So, you know, the ultimate things, like how do we get as a PG, does there work before we get to that point? We're not there yet, but that's always a possibility.
You'll let us know if you get. Public comment? Discussion?
I'm now calling for public comment for item 5, department update. I'm seeing no hands raised in Zoom for public comment and no speaker slips.
Okay, then let's move on to item 6.1, the interpretive program presentation.
Um,
He'll be back.
I'm just.
Well, I'm Catherine. I'm a park ranger 3 for San Mateo County Parks, and I lead our interpretive division, which I'll just go into the details on the focuses of our work now, but very happy to see Ernie and Sam at events before. So please feel free to join us when we have events in your district too. All right, so yeah, this is our presentation. We are a focus of environmental education and community engagement for the Parks Department. Yeah, when it goes, yeah. So who are we? We're a small team of 5 people this year. Tracy, Lauren, myself, and our 2 interns. Carmen is a bilingual community engagement intern. She focuses her work mostly at Friendship and Flood Parks and bilingual in Spanish, actually trilingual and also Italian. But that's not what we hired her for. And she helps us connect to communities in the southern part of the county. North Fair Oaks, East Palo Alto, also Pescadero and on the side with Spanish speaking communities. And she also goes to different parks and locations where we know we're gonna have communities coming out that require Spanish translation. So more recently, she went to a Rise South City field trip that that group came to Coyote Point, funded by the Parks Foundation. And she was there to lead a guided hike and do some activities with the group and provide a Spanish translation. She's also goes out to Fitzgerald Marine Reserve when they have tide pool tours with groups. And occasionally there's some students in the classes that Spanish is their primary language, and so she'll translate what the docents communicate on those tours too. So that's a large part of her job. She also does a lot of like digital translation for flyers and other content that we put together. And her position is funded by the Parks Foundation. So we're very fortunate that they are supporting that. At Friendship Park, she runs the community garden and leads the gardeners there. So she leads workshops for the gardeners every month and also brings the North Fair Oaks Library and other community-based organizations like Casa Circulo and groups like that to Friendship Park to keep programming. And Katie is the new position that we're trying out this year. It's called a co-side naturalist intern. And her position, the way we're leveraging it or using it is to really boost engagement in our coastal parks at Fitzgerald. She's supporting the Friends of Fitzgerald Marine Reserve and helping develop better resources for their volunteers to communicate about the park within the visitor center. And helping them, hopefully we're hoping to start establishing weekend visitor center hours every weekend. It's something that we haven't had yet, but through her position, we're trying to work with the Friends group to do that. And then she also when Tanitas does open, we're hoping that she can provide some programming at that site. As well as some other coastal parks. She's gonna be partnering with the libraries. They come out with their outreach van every other week to Moss Beach Park. In Moss Beach and do a story time and have their bookmobile there for people to use those resources. So that is, she'll be there to help do story time and some other engagement with the folks that show up. Of course, everyone on our team, we all kind of just work when we can together on events too. So for example, this Saturday is our first Take a Hike event for the season. And it's at Quarry Park in El Granada. And so Lauren, myself and Carmen will be there for that hike. Although it's not, you know, the parks that she's like focused at normally, but when she doesn't have programming at those parks, we kind of, you know, shift where we need to. Also, these are some past interns that we had at Memorial Park who provided naturalist program activities for campers. And so we're in the process of hiring 2 interns for this summer. We had 1 person accept today, so very excited. And she lives in Pescadero, so a local, so very excited about that. And then those positions are also funded by the Parks Foundation, so very fortunate to have their support. So that's who we are. And then a couple of years ago, we finalized an interpretive strategic plan. And if you need a copy of that, we can definitely provide that to you. It's I believe 76 pages long, so it's a little bit of a read. But throughout that process, we worked with a consultant to interview, I believe it was 30 organizations, community-based organizations throughout the county, partner organizations like our friends groups, the Parks Foundation, and our different districts of staff throughout the department to better understand where our focuses should lie within the interpretive division. And so we came up with a central theme that you can see on screen there, as well as a series of recommended areas of recommendations that I'll dive into a little bit more in the coming slides. And they're color coordinated, so keep track that way too. And please feel free to ask any questions throughout the presentation. You don't need to hold to the end. So in our first category of recommendations, it's equitable access, expanded uses, and public outreach. And so we just have some highlighted programs. This is definitely not the breadth of everything that we are doing. But here's some really fun things that we've been able to bring back or create within the last few years. So the Junior Naturalist Camp at Fitzgerald Marine Reserve is something that we started up, I believe, in about 2014. It was a partnership with the Friends of Fitzgerald. And it used to be something where folks could pay a very reduced rate for a summer camp because summer camps apparently are very expensive. But it used to be about like $100 for the week that kids could come and join this, and it would be paid to the Friends to support supplies for the program. But we, unfortunately, like a lot of things, we had to shut that down during COVID, and we brought it back this last year with a different angle. And we're now offering it to local community-based organizations at no cost. And the transportation busing to the site is provided by the Parks Foundation. And basically we go through the same material. It's more of a condensed camp, 2 days instead of 5 days. But these folks that come out, it's really surprising. The 2 groups that we worked with last year, one of them was the Coastside Boys and Girls Club that's focused in Half Moon Bay, and most of the kids had never been to Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, even though they live only 10 minutes away. We also had the San Mateo PAL Police Activities League come out to that camp. So really, really exciting. Great chance for the kids to learn more about their local environment, get to experience the ocean and the tide pools and we just found that making it available to community-based organizations better fits our mission for what we're doing. Second is the camping program at Memorial Park. We, in 2023, were able to get a gear library of equipment that we purchased, and it was about it supports about 24 people. So a number of tents and chairs and pads and whatever you need for camping. We started out with working with Casa Circulo Cultural in North Fair Oaks. Is a great community-based organization that we've had a really great partnership with, and they went in 2023. We have a partnership with Sports Basement in Redwood City to provide free sleeping bags for the group so that we don't have to sanitize and go through all those all the time. And they loved it. So we brought it back last year, had 2 groups come out, and this year we have 5 community-based organizations scheduled for the summer. The format is they get a bus provided by the Parks Foundation, as well as a $300 gift certificate for food to Safeway, so they can purchase all of the food they need for the trip. They have the transportation paid for, the site is paid for by us, and then they basically get to go for free camping in our park. So they go, they arrive on Friday afternoon. Our team meets them and gives them a brief orientation, helps them set up their campsite, because a lot of kids and families have never gone camping before, so they don't really know how to do it. And there's a trick to setting up tents. If you're not familiar with it, it can be challenging. So we help them set up their camp, bring them on a hike to the creek and show them the visitor center, introduce them to our naturalists that work at the park during the summer. And then the group is, on their own until Sunday when they're picked up by the bus again. And then we, make sure all the gear library is set for the next weekend. So we're excited to bring it back again with the support of the Parks Foundation again this year. It's been a really exciting program, and all the groups that have gone have had glowing reviews. We're so excited and wanted to come back. So Casa Circulo came back in 2024, and they're coming back again in 2025. The Coastside Boys and Girls Club came last year as well, and they're coming back this year. And then we had some groups that came out to other programs that we did, and we had, casually mentioned the camping trip, and they're like, "Oh my God, do you want to do that?" So we extended the invite and made it, more and more. I don't know if we'll be able to do more than 5 or maybe 6 in future years, just scheduling wise, but we'll definitely try to keep continuing it in the future. Yeah.
That's a couple questions.
Yeah.
Comment, which is, thank you.
I mean, that's such a beautiful thing that you guys are doing, and
I think about what our, many missions are, within Parks and Rec in general, and being able to introduce people to something like this is just spectacular.
Thank you.
I think it's wonderful what you're doing. I think then about how obviously you want to increase it, reasonably, like don't, get too far ahead of it, but it's really nice to see that you're going to have more groups, this year than last year, and see how that goes. And I found myself wondering, this is probably a silly question, but what is a CBO? What is that acronym?
A community-based organization.
I should know
Yes,
that.
yeah.
Try
No.
to lock that away. I didn't know that. Sorry. Flexing my ignorance here.
We like acronyms.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah. Sometimes there's too many though. In terms of kind of like bottlenecks for being able to open it up to more folks, is it just, capacity on equipment, or is it more just capacity on staff time, or where do you see that?
I think the biggest bottleneck is summer camping weekends, possibly for schools, for the school districts being out. So we were looking at the school calendars for this year, trying to figure out you know, there's about I think it's like 9 or 10 week span that schools are out for the summer, and also we want to look at when our naturalists are working at Memorial Park, because when our naturalists work, there's activities Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the campers there, and it really helps like facilitate a really fun experience. So we want to make sure those two things coincide, and then also the funding for transportation is kind of a limit for us, because the Parks Foundation is being super gracious and providing that, but there's a limit. And I mean, I think Michelle from the executive director was mentioning it's about $1,000 per direction to bring those groups out to Memorial Park. And so that's right now for this summer, it's gonna be about $10,000 of funding to bring those 5 groups out to the park, which is great. And I'm glad that they have the funding for that, but there's a limit on what they can support. So we don't want to push too hard on that too. Yeah.
A lot of different groups contributing to this. Yeah, including like, the fact that there's a, company Sports Basement that's
Right,
willing
yeah.
to help out with sleeping bags. I mean, that takes a big load off of you guys.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, it's like 24 sleeping bags and trying to wash those each week, the turnover. It'd be a little crazy. It'd basically be like washing sleeping bags all week between each camping trip. So yeah, I don't think they hired me to do that as much. But yeah, so that's kind of some of the things that were kind of holding us back on maybe extending it farther than that, but definitely making a leap from 2 to 5 this year, and then we'll see how 5 goes and try to at least have 5, if not a little bit more than that next year.
And certainly Catherine and her team deserve all the credit for this. I mean, this was their idea to not only open campsites up for this use, but also went out and found the equipment and created the gear library, and obviously run the program. But, this has been something that Catherine has really championed from concept to execution. She's done a phenomenal job.
I see that. How did you guys get the original idea?
I mean, I grew up camping at Memorial. That's how I got involved in this department. And so started my journey working for the department as a park aide at Memorial Park, doing the naturalist activities actually. And so just, as we're talking about the concept of, equitable access and expanding uses for people, that is a huge barrier for people. If, buying the gear and then being able to go out there, drive out, it's a far distance for people. It's about an hour. So, and if they don't have a vehicle to do that, even fees could be, the camping fees could be a barrier. So, just wanting to provide that opportunity.
And it's when they get there too, that what they provide to them is on the naturalist hikes are amazing. And then the movie night, once they do that, they're hooked. That's it. It's good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next, we have our educational programs. So we do a lot of educational programs throughout the year. That's the bulk of our work, I would say. So we have classroom-based programs that are either in the classroom or on Zoom. We used to do it all in the classroom, and then Zoom became a thing and during the pandemic, and we learned that we would actually be able to have a larger impact by having more programs, because you can have 2 to 3 programs in a day, and they could be schools from all over the county, and you don't have to drive to each. And we make sure that we have basically have a presentation that's presented on a Zoom screen to the class. And then we have a hands-on activity that is prepared and dropped off to the class before the classroom program is scheduled. And so for the one that you see on the screen, that's for our animal engineers program. And so in that program, we talk about how animals are, nature's best engineers, and talking about beavers and other animals like that. And then we have them try to construct a tower or whatever kind of thing they can with marshmallows and popsicle sticks to practice their engineering prowess. So that's just one example. We advertise this program mostly to Title I schools throughout the county. So last year we had 48 programs offered to Title I schools via Zoom and reached over 1,800 students through that. We have 5 different programs to offer. So animal engineers is one. We have one, we have a bunch of different other ones. I'm totally escaping my brain right now, but they're really fun and we're developing new ones all the time too. In the community, we also offer these same programs, but at community centers and libraries. And so we've offered 11 last year at community centers, and we also do after-school programs with community-based organizations as well. And then while we're, forming this relationship with the community at places that they feel comfortable and safe in their community centers, we then work with their leaders to bring them to parks on field trips. And so we've also brought, we did 30 programs with community-based organizations where they actually came out to parks, whether it was through like transportation grants with the Parks Foundation or things like that, and reached, almost 1,000 people last year. And then, as I mentioned, we have a lot of programs with libraries. They're one of our best partnerships that we've established because libraries are just a really natural connection with parks. They're a community resource that's free and accessible for people. And so we work with them on their Big Lift Inspiring Summer series, where they have an extended school year almost for certain schools throughout the county to provide it's a summer program to expand their ability to continue learning how to read and keep that curriculum going for about 5 weeks past the normal school year. And so they try to plan a field trip every Friday during those 5 weeks, and we work with them to bring them out to our parks as part of those field trips. So we have that, as well as a hiking series that we work with the outreach team from libraries to come out and do a hike with us. And then they bring their outreach van where people can check out books and other resources, do a story time series in the libraries and in the parks. And then we have these posters that are available every county or every library in the county, whether it's city or county or community college. And it has a list of which parks have really great playgrounds, which one are dog friendly, accessible trails, for places for biking, all kinds of things on that flyer. And then also put stars next to the closest parks, county parks, to where that library is located. So, and then this year we also are going to be relaunching our Junior Ranger program through these booklets. Our team worked really hard to put together these Junior Ranger booklets last year. We have one available for 5 different parks, and they're all parks that have visitor centers. So the idea is that if they're visiting the park, they can get a booklet and complete it. They can either complete it that day and get a little pin, a little badge, or they can send us pictures of the completed photos and they'll mail them the badge. We'll work with our friends groups on getting those together, and they're going to help us with, because a lot of our friends groups, our volunteers, they staff the visitor centers, so they're going to help us with doing that project. We have really fun large events. Take a Hike series, first Saturday of every month from April through October each year, featuring different parks each year. So starting that this Saturday. Last year we had Summerfest at Coyote Point, had over 2,500 attendees. I remember you were there. It's
favorite.
yeah, it's a really fun program. We have a lot of community-based organizations come out and staff tabling to provide resources to those who show up. And then we have really fun performances, whether it's the taiko drummers in the near part of that photo. And then if you see above the taiko drummers, there's some giant kites that are like the size of a bus that are flying in the sky. So it's just a really fun day all around. And last year we had Fall Fest at Quarry Park. We're planning on rescheduling it and having actually Fall Fest at Flood Park this year. And then what we'll call Spring Fest at Quarry Park next year, so.
Don't forget the bird storyteller,
Yes, that's true, yeah.
had like the big bird.
Yeah, that was fun. We had, there was a person who came out with like the birds, the falconer, yeah,
Big falcon.
Yeah.
Blue falcon.
yeah. And then, we also go out to other community tabling events. I think it's next Saturday, 12th. I'll be going to the Half Moon Bay Library because the Golden Gate National, the Golden Gate National Recreation Parks Conservancy. That's another acronym that gets me. I can't, yeah, GGNPC. They have an event that they're gathering all of the, parks, land management agencies in the peninsula, but mostly on the coast side, to come and table at their event, next, on the 12th at the Half Moon Bay Library. So it'll be a really fun event to share what our parks do. And then for the Mariposa program, we work to do promotion with that wherever we go. Are you familiar with the Mariposa program? Is it okay? So Mariposa program is something that our department created 3 years ago. And we noticed there was a need and wanted to provide free annual passes to anybody who qualifies for public assistance programs for the county or state. So CalFresh and Medi-Cal, there's a few other ones. And so if they qualify for those programs, somebody can call or fill out a form to apply for a pass. And someone from the Human Services Agency of San Mateo County will check that they qualify and then let our parks team know, and then they'll get mailed a annual pass for our parks, so they can go to any of our parks for free. That's just another way of, helping provide equitable access to people. So over 500,000 or 500,000, 500,000 would be our whole county. Another area of focus for our division is in partnerships. So we can't do all of this in a silo with 5 people. So we need our partnerships. Parks Foundation is one of our best partners. They provide funding for so many different things that give us the ability to do what we do. I've mentioned some of this already. One of the things I haven't mentioned is the Memorial Park Visitor Center is getting redone. And so we're in the process of making those improvements. And that should be done by the camping season starting this year. We'll see. I don't want to make promises like other parks and not have it reach that. But we also partner with the sustainability department, our friends right through that wall. And we do a climate change program with middle school and high school students focused at Coyote Point. And so we host field trips there and focus on sea level rise and what the impacts are, how to mitigate that. We partner with County Health and also HSA on the Mariposa program. We also work on Park RX with County Health, which is where doctors within the county system actually will prescribe nature to their patients as a form of healing physically and emotionally and mentally and to improve their health. And then, like I mentioned before, we have a lot of great programs with the San Mateo County Libraries. And then also mentioned our friends groups. We have 5 groups that support our parks in different locations, and we've had partnerships with them for many decades, but more recently, and as was recommended in the strategic plan, we've started having quarterly meetings with each of the groups to better understand what their priorities are, what they have coming up on their schedule, and vice versa, so that we can better work together. And we just had an annual gathering on Tuesday of this week with all of the groups to help kind of deconstruct some of the issues that they're all facing regarding volunteerism and other things like that, and try to provide a better resource to them to help them, you know, recruit, retain, and educate, and like provide those opportunities, because they're the ones that have so many different volunteers that help us do like running visitor centers, and they lead the tide pool tours at Fitzgerald Marine Reserve, and the Friends of Huddart Wonderlick lead hiking tours at Huddart Park in Wonderlick as well. So can't do that. All the impact that they do, that we need to help support them. And I know, sorry, so many things. The interpretive media section, it really kind of, media is defined by our strategic plan is pretty broad, but we have a new app called just San Mateo County Parks. If you go into the App Store, you can download it for free. It's available in English and Spanish, and we have 10 tours of our parks. This is also funded by the Parks Foundation. This is one of as we're trying it out with 10, and then if we like it, we can expand the license to get 24 tours added. But basically, very easy to use. It's been really fun to create these tours, and it introduces people to really cool things about our park system, and they can do it on their own time. Whereas we don't have the capacity to host, you know, hikes about these different topics all the time, but we typically do host an in-person hike about most of these topics at least once a year. Some of the topics include the history of Sam McDonald and his life. We also have steelhead trout and their life history and what makes them so exciting at Memorial Park. We have a solar system tour at San Bruno Mountain, which used to be like physical signs, but they used to kind of get, you know, beat up. So now we have it digitally where nobody can mess with it. So that's our new app. Travel Stories is an app that's being created for Tenitas Creek Beach. It's an audio tour app, and they'll be launched when the park launches. And that's being funded by the Peninsula Open Space Trust. And they're working in partnership with us to develop it. Memorial Park, as mentioned, is getting a new visitor center interior, super exciting. And that on the upper left is just an example of what they're gonna have big murals on the walls and like new signage throughout, and to focus on some interactive elements too. The lower bottom right is our vision for maybe what the interpretive pavilion space could look like at San Bruno Mountain, with some interpretive panels on the wall, some picnic tables for people to hang out and use that space. And then in the middle will be a television that will have rotating videos and photos of interesting things on the mountain. And then in the middle is our new department standard for interpretive panels. So that's, we're gonna start developing panels with that same format for all of our parks to have cohesion in our up here look. Yeah. And then again, yeah, an example of like before what the sign looked like and how we're gonna keep that same information, but put it into a new format that is a bit more aesthetically pleasing. And we're working at Memorial Park to improve signage, and also at Fitzgerald Marine Reserve too. And we have training opportunities offered for our staff and volunteers. So we're doing quarterly training, trying to provide opportunities for staff to improve their skills in interpretive techniques, as well as learning more about different areas that might be interesting or might facilitate them answering questions the public might have, like ticks, geology in different parks. And we're really excited, thank you, Craig, for helping us getting our contract with the Association of Ramish Ohlone. So now we can start working directly with them on providing feedback on signage and helping us develop signage and programs for the public, as well as training for our staff. So we're really excited. We're going to be meeting with Jonathan Cordero in 2 weeks to talk about upcoming projects. So been a long time. But yeah, so then we also have just lots of opportunities for our staff to also, our field staff that Scott works with to help us with the work that we do. And yeah, so thank you. If you have any questions, other questions, please let me know.
This is solid presentations, like
Thank you.
solid, like you get like Star Search when they give like the solid stars. It's like solid gold, like solid. For your time.
No, I remember watching those before American Idol.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is this? I feel that somehow because of this presentation and because we are commissioners, I feel that somehow we should have our fingerprints on this, that we should be, I don't say allowed, we should be able to do a site visit with you with the campers, or just to see the interaction, just to see the demographics, see what kids are coming up there, see what culturally sound, who's up there, what parks there are. And I think last year with the celebration of Memorial, that was probably a huge highlight of my time on the commission, and seeing everyone who attended. And it was a nice drive, very long. You're like, are we there yet? It's a very, are we there yet? You know, I know, Chair Minton is closer than we are, but
Yeah.
but it was that feeling, like it was, they were very embracing and receptive, had a amazing, beautiful luncheon. And so this is something that we're, need to, be, appealing to. Like, this is something that we should, as commissioners, and I know that we're, we, volunteer our time, but I think part of that should be, doing site visits to see, so that when we report back and we talk about this, you can say that we actually went to a camp, day one of it, and is this something that commissioners could be a part of or participate in it? I mean, that's something that you could think about.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, well, you've already like attended some of our events. They're more than welcome to show up for some of those events that we have coming up, and we'd be happy to schedule site visits with anyone who's interested to come out and see the work that we're doing. That's maybe like interpretive centers, interpretive pavilions and things like that, when we have more set up and ready to show you. And then I don't see anything, no problem with if you wanted to come out and welcome campers or something
Yeah,
like that.
I mean, I think that's something that we should do. Summer's, not in the driveway, but it's, you can see it from your rearview mirror.
Yeah. Yeah, some
2
days
months
feel
away.
more summery. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Well, I mean, I'm certainly a big fan of doing the take the hikes, because that way you get to see who shows up and,
Yeah.
and talk to people about, their experiences in the park, just watch.
Yeah, and that was actually, Take a Hike was initially created by the Board of Supervisors. So it was initially, as an opportunity for the board to meet with their constituents in various parks and go on a hike with them and discuss, what issues there are, things that they would like to talk about, just be an open base, yeah. So.
Just a couple comments. I think the junior ranger program is a great idea. I mean, the whole thing is awesome, what you guys are doing, but personally, I really like junior ranger programs. And I know my family has traveled a lot to a lot of national parks over summers, and my kids, when they were younger, they were just all over it. They have these huge collections of the pins.
Yeah.
And what was so good about those programs is they'd get the actual booklet, and they would really work on those things. And they have them do a really challenging stuff, thought-provoking assignments. They would hike more, they would look more, they would open their eyes more to their surroundings because of those programs, because they were well constructed. And so we feel like we really benefited from those. So just the fact that we would have that, at our own park, so it's great. So
Yeah. Well, then, so each park is gonna have, the 5 parks are gonna have their own little badge that's like curated to, featured species that you would see at that park. So it is an opportunity to, collect them all. And then if you do all 5, then you can get a star, not this big, but like maybe half the size. Yeah, we don't have that much money, so,
Maybe the kids do get that ice cream,
yeah,
maybe.
maybe in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so anyhow, I think that's fantastic. Quick question about the app. So you were saying it's like a separate app for tinnitus from.
Yeah,
the
it
other
will
thing?
be separate. There's a separate audio tour app that's specifically for tinnitus that was, it was funded by Post. It wasn't something that, yeah, it's something that was kind of like in the works a little bit before we kind of were a part of it, I think. So we're just, helping with that. Yeah.
So it's gonna run on its own, but just any opportunity to integrate, right? Because if it could be integrated
Right.
at some point, it'd be one less app on a.
I
cluttered
know,
phone.
I know. It's a different company though, so I don't know how, but we could probably like try to, link them in some way. I'm not sure.
But anyhow, sounds good.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to present on all the work that we do, and we're happy to invite you out to join us for, looking at projects or being part of programs, so let us know. Yeah, okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Great.
Those are
9
the-
a.m.
I know that
Yeah.
those are the dog trails, right?
Yes, yeah, you can bring your dog. Mhm.
But
On leash.
On
Well,
leash.
actually, I mean.
On leash. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Always.
Doesn't. Technically, those trails are off,
Yes.
but for the
But
program.
no, for program,
Yes,
yeah, no.
yes,
We
yeah.
asked that.
Yeah, forgot.
And on film.
Yes.
And then I guess before you go, Catherine, we'll do public comment.
Right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Sorry.
So now open public comment for item 6.1, the Parks Interpretive Program resolution. I have no speakers up to this item, and I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine. Really appreciate when you get a chance, I'd love to see the full strategic plan.
Okay, I can forward that to
I can send
Hannah.
that out.
Yeah, yeah, okay, perfect.
Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
so
much.
Have a nice
Thank
day.
you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Catherine.
Well, this is a good segue because we're going to move into the discussion of the draft work plan, item 6.2, 2025 commission work plan discussion. And so that is attached to the agenda. And as we talked about last month, this is to try to give us make sure that we have context for our work. Make sure we're advancing the items that we have on the agenda to a some kind of outcome, identifying that outcome and then helping us to fulfill our responsibility, which is to inform or recommend things to the Board of Supervisors. So thanks everybody for filling in some of the blocks. I think this is a good start in that I hope that as you went through this, you kind of got a sense of where you want to prioritize, like if you could pick one thing or where we should prioritize. And that's also going to be informed informed by budget discussion next month. And also, hopefully, we'll shortly have 2 other commissioners as well, right? That can take up some of these passion areas, so.
And we're making good
Do we have
strides
enough?
with that. Yeah, there's one supervisor's interviewing. And I think the other one's closing soon. So we're making good headway.
June, I'm hoping. Doesn't sound like May.
Yeah, we might be able to have one by May. I don't know about the second one, but definitely June. Let's commit to June. I like that.
That'll be good, but plenty of work to do, so, yeah.
And I would say, I think a lot of the things that are on the list, and that we've talked about, I don't anticipate having significant impacts from the budget conversations, so, I would just flag that. As an optimistic,
Yes.
that's the optimism of the meeting.
So, yeah, then the first item, so what I'd like to do is kind of just maybe we don't have to go through everything in depth because it's already 5:15, but probably first hear feedback from each of you, like, I'm looking at this. Was there one thing that popped out to you that if there's one thing that you want to pursue this year, that, that would be the thing that you want to work on?
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in there. So, I chatted with Hannah a little bit, trying to get my thoughts together in terms of, how I would kind of approach, the things I'm most interested in. And certainly, I think for me, the kind of the partnerships connections area, what you see on here is kind of where I thought I'd want to put my energy, like initially. I want to be, focused initially on one thing, not get too distracted. And I thought that starting to do like kind of routine outreach to a lot of our partnership groups would be have a lot of merit, I think, for us, because then I could learn a lot more about, because when talking with Hannah, I was like, there's so many groups. There's just a ton of groups, and I'd like to personally learn more about them, and I think we start bringing them in, just for not to take too much time here, but just to make sure that we have kind of a routine where we can hear from these different groups, so we're always kind of updated, and learning about ways that we can collaborate, and kind of figure out what it is.
So these are groups that currently work with Parks Department, and the idea is to bring them in and explore ways that we could maybe like strengthen those relationships, or ways the commission can support the partnership further, or what would be kind of what your ideal outcome would be?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's about kind of cross-pollination of ideas, because there's a lot of work going on out there. It's really good work, but we're not always fully aware of what that is. And, the idea is that, there's a group, maybe that's working on trails over here, and there's a group that's working on a trail over here, and maybe there's a way to integrate that. And, I'm sure already there's thought that's been put into that, but I think if we all hear it here in one spot, it'll help our thought process with integration, I guess. So I don't know if that's too loosey-goosey, but that's kind of my thought for now. Any thoughts, comments, concerns on that?
The only thought I have, maybe we could all sit, in between this meeting and the next one, and like really talk about the comprehensive, right? Because our partner list is long.
Yeah, and the more I look into it, the more I realize it's like, oh my God.
Yeah,
this is incredible.
it's not like,
It's a good thing.
a handful, right? I mean, it's, and certain partners, I would say, play different roles, and then certain partners, then there's also kind of gray areas, right? Two, I call them gray areas, are Santa Cruz Mountain Stewardship Network and Together Bay Area, which are organizations that we're members of, so they're not really partners, but we do partner with members within the organizations of the network, so that one gets a little complicated. But I think we'd probably both welcome the opportunity to sit with you and kind of go through that comprehensive list. And maybe what we could do is identify a specific use case, trails, right? Or something like that, and then tackle that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if there's a grouping or a specific topic where, so we can narrow down that list of,
Sure.
and then even integrate it with some of these other priorities. So that we're talking, so this is almost cuts across all of the priorities,
Yeah,
right?
right,
Like,
right.
so how can we work with these other groups to advance something else on the list? That would be really helpful. And I think from a work plan standpoint, as I was looking again at planning agendas, I'm like, how do you pick which to invite? And then you gotta call them and you gotta invite them. So that would really help, like, narrow it down.
Sure, yeah, no, that's a good idea.
And really realistically, over the course of the rest of the year, there's probably maybe 4 slots if you want to do one per meeting. So it's not, you really have to like
Choose well.
choose well, yeah,
Yeah.
and set realistic expectations.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Meaningful
expectations. But
Yeah, if you're going off of just this calendar year, yeah.
There's also the benefit of, you know, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that getting kind of focused in on something like, you know, I think the areas that I think I'm most interested in and passionate about are trails, you know, bike commuting, just kind of the interconnectivity of parks in general and finding ways to allow people to mobilize without cars. You know, so any non-car transportation, I'm a big fan of. So, you know, I think that there's a lot of ways that could kind of be approached, but maybe trails is a good kind of first way to organize, you know, thoughts on that.
And then from there, if you want, we can also break things.
Let's have that conversation online.
So we're at- it's a big list now. Dan?
I don't know if mine would fit under the umbrella of 6.2 or potentially do a 7.1 under Commissioner's report, because I think they both tie in collectively within this, like, at the end of the day, they all come to, like, they're gonna be in the same locker room, it's just which side, you know, which side, like 6.2 and reporting on Commissioner's reports. You know, because I was able to do a site visit, and I'm very grateful that Mr. Lombardi was able to take the lead and contacted staff at Coyote Point, and I had a very you know, it was fulfilled. You know, I granted staff is busy, but you know, they definitely made time for a commissioner who is near and dear to that part. Just my own personal opinion, and you know, I wanna, you know, at least get the gist of, like, Coyote Point is an important park, so I don't know if I should start talking a little bit here, or should I wait until I get to commissioners' reports, because they all kind of have the same meaning. Like, what I'm gonna say here might be almost the same thing on a commissioner's report that would tie in to facilities and people who attend, and you know, the answers I give will all translate to anything that you want to put in the box here as far as
I would say
translation.
it's up to you, but I would ask you this, is there, after your site visit, is there anything one thing you walked away from that was like, oh, I want to investigate that thing more?
It's no secret. I mean, Coyote Point is the breadwinner of all parks, nearly.
We're gonna go down now.
It is. And I had the amazing pleasure of doing a ride along with Laurel, with who I hadn't seen in a while. I was very happy to see her. And we chatted quite a bit before we started our ride along, and it was very fulfilling in terms of learning more and more about how things actually connect the dots, and how you can connect, you know, like light and you know, battery, and you know, it connects to, like, you know, let there be light, because you learn more about budgeting, you learn more about, you know, it's a bit sad because Coyote Point has over 150, close to it, of a eucalyptus tree loss. And an impeccable amount of irrigation loss. And I think what Catherine and what Nicholas Chair Calderon was saying, like, as soon as, like, right now, Big Brother is like Big Brother of Mount Rushmore of parks in the Bay Area or San Mateo County is flood and Tanitas. That's like your prime rib base importance, like impeccably important. And as soon as all that is done, then Coyote Point is gonna get its turn. So so in our drive through the entire facility, you know, we went up to the captain's house, which I think we should have a meeting there. We had pre-COVID and right in 2020, we've had about 2 or 3 meetings since I've been on the commission, and it's a wonderful place. We had a field trip last year at Coyote Point. And, you know, we had a presentation, you know, got to, you know, do a complete walkthrough. So with nice weather, and it's gonna be different on a Saturday and Sunday versus a middle of the week. Middle of the week, you're gonna see a lot of runners, you're gonna see a lot of people that, you know, the golfing area is just, is for the city of San Mateo. You have a lot of vendors there. You have people that wanna, go airplane watching, and you have people that, come from the East Bay. So in terms of what I focus on of the, diversity and those, multicultural people and multi-demographics, there's people that have birthday parties, there's people that have, multiple picnic areas that they, occupy versus during the week, it's gonna be parents with young children. There's a play area for the toddlers and mothers who are taking their kids out, you know, to play in the slides and the swing. So they are waiting for facilities to be upgraded as soon as I think the 2 main project parks are tended to, and they've got money from Kevin Kevin Mullins. So I mean, those are some of the things I gathered, because it's, I mean, people from all over the Bay Area, because they don't wanna make that drive down to 92. They would rather just come right from the San Mateo Bridge. As far as East Bay people that want, the warm weather, but it's also cool, they wanna have their events at Coyote Point. And again, it's a moneymaker for a plethora of vehicles that come to enter that park on Saturday and Sunday. So I think those are just some of the things that I captured when I did my ride along to see, you know, and they have what, 4 or 5 vendors, I wanna say. At Coyote Point, there was a skateboarding, surfboard, a company there.
Board sports, yeah.
Board sports,
With the kiddos.
the kiddos choo choo, yeah, was there, and so, I mean, there's quite a bit happening there. And I mean, we talk about restaurants and Magic Mountain, and that's low priority right now. Because there's a lot of money that requires to be put in. As much as we love Coyote Point, those of us that are close to that park, in terms of close to our hearts and close to proximity, we know that it's gonna take a ton of money to make it look gorgeous.
Go ahead, Nicholas. I was just saying, okay, so I'm putting you actually next to the facilities and infrastructure. Next to revitalize Coyote Point. Because I think everything you said, even though you started with the idea of going out there and looking at access and visitor services, you're saying that we need to really, really focus and make sure that park is fully invested in.
Fully invested and sustained.
Yes, which is really the revitalized Coyote plan. So that is your priority, is to make sure that.
1000%.
Probably that
1000%.
plan gets, okay, that's perfect. Yeah, go ahead, Nicholas.
I was just gonna say, you know, I think it's important to also point out a few things. One is, you know, we're preparing, we've already set aside several $1 million for Coyote Point, and we're preparing to set aside more for that Magic Mountain Playground project. We also have another playground in the Institute place that eucalyptus. I would argue, and you know, Scott, you've been with the system longer than I have, but I would argue in the 7.5 years that I've been with the department, Coyote Point looks better now than it has in the 7.5 years that I've been here.
Yeah.
largely because of the tree removal work, but also the improvements to the irrigation system. I mean, I remember my first several years with the department, it was brown, and right now that, I was in there, we were in there yesterday, and that park is flourishing.
Oh,
It
it's
is
beautiful.
green.
Right now, it's very green.
You know, so I think we've made some serious investments, both one-time capital and ongoing into Coyote Point. The shade structure's made a huge improvement. So, you know, we've done a lot, we're getting ready to do more. And you know, when Prop 4 funding becomes available, you know, the first target that we
Yeah, I
have is
was
Coyote
gonna
Point.
mention that.
So-
That's a big.
So, yeah, I mean, that's, you know, so, and, you know, what we're targeting Prop 4 for is actually gonna be facilities and infrastructure, so water and sewer. So we recognize the importance of Coyote Point, and we're, you know, there have been a lot of things going on there that have kind of slowed down what we'd like to do, but right now the time is right and we're ready to bounce on that. And the last thing I'd say is, you know, obviously, we do charge a $6 vehicle entrance fee at Coyote Point, but the driver for us is the experience, and, you know, so we look more at how much fun are people having there than how many dollars are coming in. So we typically don't refer to Coyote as a cash cow or revenue maker or anything like that.
No, but it's a bread and butter of, you know, I get the $6 entry fee, but when you drive home or you head back from your picnic or party, it's the presentation, it's the experience.
Absolutely.
You know, because you know what? 99% chance you're coming back to that park to have a kid's birthday. Even we saw people conditioning, playing ropes and doing like NFL type of conditioning, near the captain's house.
Yeah.
There's people that will come back repetitively, runners, they're having a big, the 5K run is big, every October, and they're having for Ramadan, they're having a big, for those that are celebrate that, they're having a big, Eid party. So there's a lot of things coming in and out, and you wanna say, hey, we want to come back again and again and again and again.
Okay, thank you, Nicholas. Yeah, I got it. Good. Okay, yeah, so I like that idea of, like Nicholas said, a lot of work's been done. We need to make sure it gets carried over the finish line, and we need to make sure that we're
They're making
we're
strides.
recognizing the
They're
value of
making
all the
strides.
variety of things that facility offers.
Nick's got big plans. I'm not giving anything away. He's already on it, I'm telling you right now.
I didn't.
Yeah, but I think that we maybe we could make sure everyone else is aware
Yeah,
of the value, which is,
I won't let that one out of the bag yet, but.
yeah. Oh, I want to know.
No, that fishing rod is, I mean, you got enough bait on that to get a nice big halibut, you know, on your fishing day. So we know it's coming. We just, it's just takes time.
For my part, I mean, I put a lot of ideas in all of these areas, but going with kind of where both of you are. I mean, I really think we do need to do a follow-up review of the Fish and Game grants that we made to make sure that those are progressing. And also to have conversations with the applicants to see, because we will be, if we revive the program, the 2026, sorry. You know, make sure we capture before they forget how the experience was. So, but I don't think that's a huge effort, so I'm okay with taking on to that. But in alignment with what you said, kind of what we heard, there's no public transit to Coyote Point Park, right? And we heard how the costs of transportation are huge
Sky high.
when they're bringing people out to Memorial Park, which makes sense. So this notion of connectivity between the parks is, I think would be important. I don't know, I thought it was on somewhere.
Regional.
Oh, regional transportation connections, yeah, yeah. So I don't know if that aligns more with. I'll wait till you have that conversation with Nicholas and him
Yeah,
about
but
what
that might,
partners.
yeah,
Yeah,
that might, because that is in line with the whole spirit of
yeah,
how can you get more people to more parks? And not necessarily with cars.
yeah.
And it could be more public transit options, could be, you know, better bike routes or safer bike routes, or just education on existing bike routes, things like that.
So we'll hold that to talk about next time. And I would say also the other thing that I'm keeping an eye on, again, this goes with like making sure the department is fully resourced, and if there's anything that we can do as commissioners to recommend to the board better ways for the for the
Kind
department
of
to function.
leapfrog
Yeah.
to,
To like push it up is just making sure that, the fuel reduction, the staff has enough, resources to keep ahead of the summer fire season. So kind of looking into how everybody works together to keep the fuel reduction going. So that would be my other issue. So further discussion? Comments from staff?
Yeah, I feel like this is a good layout, and I think that it helps to start to flesh out some of the goals and action items for this, so it seems that, like there's a step.
And I think that this is about all we can reasonably accomplish. Of course, when the new commissioners come on, whatever their interests are, hopefully they'll be able to take up the mantle of a couple more, but really within the next 8 meetings, not even 8 meetings we have left. I'd like to make progress on 1 or 2 things rather than 20, so.
Sure. Yeah, we gotta be focused enough and, have a couple wins by the end of the year.
So with that, we'll open up for public comment.
Now calling for public comment on item 6.2, the discussion on the commission work plan. And I have no speaker slips for this item, and I'm not seeing any hands raised for comment.
Move on to commissioner updates. Pam, did you want to say more about your Coyote Point trip?
no, it's
Which is
just,
cool that you did that.
I appreciate, Mr. Lombardi for helping set it up, and, Laurel was,
That goes for any commissioner.
an absolutely, a pleasure that she, showed me around, and she took time out of her schedule to, just kind of show me the ABCs and the kind of, some of the ins and outs of what goes on, daily at Coyote Point.
Well, I went to the artist reception at San Pedro Valley the posters for the San Mateo Parks Foundation. That was really nice. They did a great job. It was neat to talk with the 3 posters. If you haven't seen them, go on the Parks Foundation website and look at them, because they're 3 very different styles. 3 totally different artists. One who's a very technical illustrator and one who's more art, and they each. Even now, as I'm looking, I'm like, they really capture what these parks are. So I just love that program, and it was really fun to actually go and talk with the friends group there and see the support they're getting. So yeah, that was really cool. And I will be out at Take a Hike on Saturday for the first. I realized last year. So if you guys don't know Take a Hike, you're supposed to take a picture at a certain spot on the route, and then you send it in at the, right? So if you do 4, you get something, you do 7, you get something. I never sent my pictures in last year. I'm going through, I'm like, Like, oh, I never filled it. So anyway, so this year's, I'll make sure I'm reminded to like,
And that's in your wheelhouse, right?
yeah, but the great thing about Take a Hike is you need to go everywhere. I mean, there's 7 hikes, right? So it's cool when there's hikes that I haven't done. It's cool even if there are hikes you have done because you're hearing the interpretive staff talk about it. So
That's awesome.
yeah, highly recommend. Any staff comments? Public comments on 7.1?
Now calling for public comment for 7.1 Commissioner reports. And seeing no hands raised in Zoom for comment and no speaker slips.
Item 8, I don't know if we need to cover because that's basically covered in the work plan. So we can move to adjourn.
You're.
Okay. I don't have a adjourn.